This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carranante.
Welcome to the Yankees Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carranante. Nearly a week after the Yankees' elimination, their offseason plan remains just as murky as it was on the moment the final out settled into the glove of the catcher behind Cody Bellinger, who, by the way, opted out at the end of last week. We knew he would. Should we bring him back? Is there an upgrade available? There's certainly one player perceived as an upgrade. Should we handle him? Should we enter that conversation? What are the New York Yankees going to do? Guaranteed we hem and haw more this offseason than ever before, because there is no perfect solution here. Whether you raise the payroll or lower it, or are invested in one area and neglect another, there are needs throughout the Yankees roster. There are not obvious solutions available. We say this every year. They're going to do something we're not expecting right now, or they're not, or they're going to sit on their hands. But if Brian Cashman intends to make this roster better, he's going to do something that I think most analysts of the roster are not predicting or projecting. It's going to cost a lot. He's going to have to be comfortable moving players he previously wasn't comfortable talking about. So this will not be the last time we talk about the offseason plan. We're going to need a little bit more details before we can really get into what's available and what isn't. But I think we're going to have a lot of healthy debate to be embraced on this show, and we hope everybody weighs in the comments on Twitter. Thanks for joining us again. 3 o'clock Eastern today on a Tuesday, but usually it's 2 o'clock Eastern on a Monday and on a Thursday. Holiday weekend. Hope you enjoyed it. We are back on a Tuesday afternoon. Again, watched the Yankees get eliminated on Wednesday. They were replaying the game when I was at the airport at 4:30 a.m. on Friday morning, which I did not think was nice at all. It was not a good time to have that on the televisions. That game was over. I didn't want to watch it again, but I had to. And it made me rethink, refresh. I mean, that moment has passed. The ALCS is ongoing. And, oh, by the way, I got a little bit of stuff to say about that as well, because if you've been watching, yeah, still it's 2-0. You know, there's some more games to go. Team's got to win 4 games to win the ALCS. But I would say one team in the ALCS is not beating the division series was our World Series allegations. It's not going well for a team that was trying to maybe rebut that thought. It is pretty hard to stay focused on the task at hand, I guess, when you celebrate the demise of your first opponent quite that hard, and maybe even carry that celebration into the next round. It's pretty solid indicator that your focus isn't where it should be. Again, 2 games isn't 4. You got to win 4 to advance. No one's done that yet, but yeah. Thomas Carranante, welcome to the show. Let's talk Yankees offseason ball and current postseason.
Did I do my job this week? I don't know. I forgot about the Yankees for the last 5 days.
It felt awesome. It felt awesome because
it wasn't even intentional. It was just like, you know what? It was a slog most of this year, whether you disagree or not with the 94 wins. Like, it was still a trying season from start to finish. And then the DS was just a slap in the face. And again, a confirmation of everything that we had previously been worried about. So I took the last 5 days, worked, obviously, did some good work, I feel, and watched some baseball from an objective perspective, which I really enjoy doing.
It's been a fun championship series, and the other division series. Those paths were more fun. The deciding game 5s, we didn't have one of those. Yeah, like, cool. Inside jokes, would love to be a part of one someday, but wasn't able to be. Yeah, exactly what we predicted would happen so far has mostly happened, other than the results on the scoreboard. But I all think we were pretty aligned with, like, you know who's not going to do this in the next round? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And you know who hasn't done this in the next round? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Ernie Clement, too, another guy. It's like, oh, I thought he was just a 1,500 OPS guy. You're telling me he's not always that? We're not going to see that every round. Trey Savage, another one, a guy who needs to be mentioned in the jurisdiction of, like, give me a fucking break. We'll talk about all that in a little bit. Let's focus on what's in the Yankees' backyard at this point. It's Cody Bellinger and his official opt-out. Not surprising. No one is surprised by this. We all knew, even despite the comfort he exuded and all the comments saying, I want to come back. We knew he wanted to come back, and I believe that he does, and that doesn't change. And I think if you let Aaron Judge play GM, he probably is coming back. A lot of Yankee fans are in a lot of different camps here with Cody Bellinger. And maybe I might be in the minority on Kyle Tucker, who's his main competition too. But we'll talk about Cody first, because I think I just accepted like 3-4 months ago that I would be more than comfortable with a deal of a certain length and a certain monetary value here. The Yankees have found a versatile solution to one of their major problems. And Cody Bellinger's playoff numbers maybe don't naturally match up with his regular season output, but it's also a small sample size. There was a moment in this postseason where he was hitting in the 100s with a 400 OPS, and he got it up to near 700, hitting in the 200s by the end of it. And it was all starting to revert back to the norm. But the Yankees also en masse did not perform in the playoffs. So I really can't sit here and be like, Cody Bellinger let us down. I at no point did I feel like Cody Bellinger was one of the worst 6 hitters in the Yankees lineup. Maybe that's me. That's a personal thing. But I definitely wasn't sitting there being like, Bellinger is killing us. I was thinking about Stanton killing us, as someone who I forgive because of last year. And I was thinking about Wells and Volpe and Jazz and everybody else all mashed together into one glob of a bunch of people killing us. So that didn't change my perspective on Cody Bellinger. I think I exited the season being like, yep, feel the same as I ever felt. 5 years, 120, 5 years, 130. I'm down. I like the fit next to Judge. I like the combination power, speed, puts balls in play. I don't think he's going to age remarkably poorly. There's a sect of the Yankees fan base that's claiming this deal is going to age worse than DJ LeMahieu's. I don't see that happening. I also don't see how that's possible or how the skill sets line up. That said, Scott Boras is the guy in charge. Cody Bellinger has been, the flip side of that is that Cody Bellinger has been the Boras client sentenced to the puddle of 1-year deals and 1-year deals with options. It's happened to him twice. Like, nobody wants to pay him this ridiculous market value. So you'd think that by the third go round, he would have adjusted this offseason and said, that's no longer my goal. I'm comfortable with the Yankees. I'm not seeking the moon anymore. But if he is, and if he demands $200 million or 8 years or bogs down the whole offseason, he's been waiting for a long time before. He's already done that. So if he bogs down the whole offseason, doesn't let the Yankees get anything done, like the Tucker market passes them by, or the relievers they need to grab, or the depth starter, or the shortstop they want to plug in, if they're losing out on options because they're waiting for Cody Bellinger who won't budge, then I would say, yes, move along. But if it's as easy as, I don't want to get stuck in purgatory again, I will do 5/120. I would prefer to do that versus doling out the contract that every Yankees hater wants us to sign Kyle Tucker to. But I am curious what you're thinking today on October 14th about this.
Yeah, I'm a big Cody Bellinger fan, so all of this can obviously get more complicated with the waiting game. I don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what Boras is advising him on. Typically, Boras clients are notoriously difficult, so the Yankees might find themselves in another prolonged situation again. In terms of Kyle Tucker, I think I would like to get this out of the way and be on the record. No interest in him unless it's under $200 million. And I'm not Mr. Money guy. You guys know I'm always a fan of throwing money at whoever in order to elevate this roster and make them better. But again, we're talking about another imperfect fit. Kyle Tucker's a right fielder. Aaron Judge is a right fielder. Kyle Tucker is coming off a questionable season in which he was injured twice, and one of those injuries was not handled properly. He had a fractured hand, and he just kept playing through it. Very complicated stuff. And then I watched him throughout the playoffs and was not impressed. And I know he was impressive with the Astros. I think there's a different element here. The Astros, during his time, were a wagon. They didn't have one guy that they stared around the room at waiting for somebody to produce, like much of like what we talk about sometimes with the Yankees. When the Yankees go into slumps, it's everybody's like, hey, Aaron, Mr. Judge, are you going to step up now so we can all feel better? Kyle Tucker was in that situation this year with the Cubs, and whether it was injuries, whether it was him having to level up and be under that pressure of being the guy, I don't know what it was. Right now, he's not trending in that right direction in terms of paying somebody $400 million. It's insane. I guess it's possible. When you look at the Yankees payroll situation, the only reason I don't want it to happen is because A, you're paying for a redundancy, which I'd be fine with if the Yankees threw caution to the wind, but they don't. And two, we know that they are overly strict with the limitations of how far they're willing to go with the luxury tax. So if they sign Kyle Tucker to the market high deal, they are done. They are hamstrung, and then it's a bunch of trades that are probably going to be underwhelming, and it's a bunch of short-term one-year deals that are not going to jazz up the roster enough to the point where it needs to be a contender. So I'm out on Kyle Tucker, especially because he's not Boris, right? He's CAA or something.
Didn't
He's
he
Casey
fire-
Close, I think.
Yeah.
I believe he's Casey Close, which is almost the same thing as Boris because they're hunting for deals. Can't blame them.
Yeah.
But they'll be using the Yankees.
It will be something like the $400 million deal. Like I don't.
That's crazy.
I don't want to pay that, and I don't see the value at this point. But so the pro in Tucker's column, to me, I mean, look, he's an all-star. He's going to be an MVP consideration. If he joins the Yankees, he's protecting Aaron Judge. This is a guy that the media is going to slobber over in spring training. Like, if that's what you want, you've made the impact acquisition of the offseason.
You won the offseason.
In the eyes of the people who assess these things. You have absolutely won the offseason if you grab Kyle Tucker. And the other compelling argument is that when the Yankees pivoted to plan B and they lost Juan Soto permanently, they left themselves without a second superstar and someone to carry Judge's mantle, and Judge is aging. And so they're going to need one sooner rather than later. They haven't developed one. Jason Dominguez, a player I like, has not shown signs of being that yet. Anthony Volpe, sure as hell not. Spencer Jones, no. So they don't have one. If you need one, there aren't many available on the free agent market because they're getting extended. So you're waiting for Gunnar Henderson in like 2 or 3 years. And yes, I think Gunnar Henderson will be available. And yes, I think Gunnar Henderson would be a great Yankee. So that's the argument, that when you lost Soto, you resigned yourself to plan Bs without a superstar, unless you can go ahead and grab Tucker to be that heir apparent. That said, first of all, I'm not sure.
So we're both out on Tucker.
I'm not sure I view Tucker as that heir apparent. And you're right with the redundancy. I think, getting a superstar just to get a second superstar without building the rest of the roster in one image, unified around prospering in October, I think would be silly. And the Yankees, as we know, front load these things and then don't build up the back end. Mm-hmm. They grab Giancarlo Stanton and everybody goes, isn't that redundant? And they go, no. 3 true outcomes is the game now. This is where we're headed. Everyone's going to have this for all 9 batters in the lineup. So let's get a second one of this, and then we'll figure it out. We'll pass on Bryce Harper, and we'll pass on Manny Machado. And we're not really defense guys anymore. We don't care about that. We don't care about positional baseball. We'll put people where we want to put them. And then that world has changed. Athleticism is back. Tailoring bats to the stadium and lineup balance is back. The Yankees have lefties now. The Yankees didn't have lefties for many years. Like, I don't know if I can be compelled by, hey, it's just money. And if it's $450 million, it's $450 million. You need that heir apparent to Judge. You need to get him right now. I think the Yankees could also make a compelling World Series case with, 5 plan Bs in the lineup behind Aaron Judge and a well-balanced lineup of stars. I don't think we necessarily need this megawatt deal. But I understand if you're the kind of person who wants to bring Kyle Tucker in, he is, again, you're going to win the offseason if you do that. I'm not going to say you're a fool for wanting to invest in this level of talent. I will say you're a fool for not taking into account the way that the Yankees operate. If you're like, why does Tucker have to hamstring them? It's like, he shouldn't,
exactly.
But he shouldn't, but he will. So you have to take that into consideration. I also I know how Yankee fans treat their players, especially when they come up with the pedigree of Kyle Tucker. I know how they treated
on his back the whole time.
I know how they treated Giancarlo Stanton in 2018-19. So if you watch Tucker with the Cubs this year, you know that it was not smooth sailing. You know that he was, like you said, entrusted to be the guy carrying the torch, and he came down with mysterious injuries, and he came up small in runners in scoring position scenarios. And in the playoffs with first and second and nobody out, down 1 in a deciding game 5, he came up with a 3-1 count and struck out. And then the inning derailed. And that was the end of the Cubs playoff run. That's been forgotten largely across Major League Baseball outside of Chicago. I'm sure in Chicago, if I mentioned Kyle Tucker today, they'd be like, that at-bat in game 5 sucked. And that whole second half sucked. But in, Cincinnati or San Francisco, they're not talking about that. If Kyle Tucker had done that for the Yankees, the trolling would not have stopped. It would be part of the Toronto Blue Jays ALCS hype montage. Yep. So again, not saying, hey, don't sign Kyle Tucker because of one bad at-bat in a Cubs uniform, Like, I'm not doing an imagine if Obama did what Trump did. Like, man, if Kyle Tucker had taken that IB in pinstripes, there'd be memes. Like, that's not an argument against signing him. It's just saying that realistically, he had a 100-game stretch and postseason this year that would have had Yankees fans riding him like crazy. And if you didn't watch, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the other element of this where you put a target on you unintentionally put a target on your back. You earn what you deserve, right? Or you earn what the market dictates. And then all eyes on you. Better deliver when you have to, or else it's going to be unpleasant and the discourse is going to be toxic. So that's, I think, one of the more secondary reasons, I think is fair to say. I'm not, because the nature of the Yankees is to sign big name players. So the targets will be on people's backs, but you're adding another one into the mix. Look, we already dealt with Carlos Rodon for the last 2 years with that situation. Like you said, Giancarlo Stanton in the beginning of his tenure. There's many more examples. Juan Soto was the only one to dodge it. That was somebody who they traded for and needed to deliver. He largely came through on all fronts. Now, back to Bellinger. I love Cody Bellinger. Let me contextualize this in terms of why I guess we don't view his postseason struggles as that big of an issue and why we think giving him a longer-term deal over someone like Tucker makes sense. There are a few reasons. One, Cody Bellinger has had past success in the postseason, and he did it with a team that is equivalent to the Yankees in the Dodgers, at least in terms of prestige and consistency with reaching October. So just because he had a bad 6 or 7 games, that's not anything that you can hold against him. And look, we do that in some capacities, right? Somebody comes here, they don't deliver in the postseason, you're like, all right, I'm done with you. And again, I think that's more of the conversation where it's like, oh, did you overextend yourself in a trade for this person? Or did you overpay the price tag to get this person? Then yeah, the underwhelming performance in the postseason upon first impression is going to hit a lot harder because of the circumstances surrounding that individual. In this scenario, the Yankees did not overextend themselves for Bellinger. They gave up Cody Poteet and paid $20 million this past year. If you want to talk about overall contributions, Cody Bellinger, outside of Aaron Judge, was the Yankees' most valuable player this year. He covered up a lot of deficiencies with this lineup when you talk about two-strike approach. Literally the only player on the team to adapt his approach on 2 strikes at every turn. So if you want to remove that from the lineup, for all the fans out there complaining about, oh, all this team does is hit home runs and strike out, or, oh, they shrivel up in the biggest moments. Yes, we have the argument that Bellinger did not come through in the biggest moments. I understand that. But there was time throughout the entire season where Bellinger completely changed his game and changed his approach in order to deliver on the offensive end. Was successful both with making contact, getting on base, and hitting for power. And then you want to talk about the defensive versatility and flexibility. This is the most important thing, especially if you're talking about down the road. So at this point, someone like Trent Grisham, for example, would eventually profile more as a DH. Down the road, 4 or 5 years down the road, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how his body's going to hold up in center field. We know that's a demanding position. I'm just using him for the sake of argument. Cody Bellinger is an extremely gifted athlete who can play first base, left field, right field, and center field, and has done all of those things at an above average clip or a Gold Glove caliber. You saw his work in left field this year. Absolutely incredible. And it allowed Aaron Judge to remain comfortable in right field when he was able to play defense. And 2, the Yankees had a right field solution, an elite one, in Cody Bellinger when Aaron Judge was DHing and out because of the injury. So now you want to look further down the road, right? Don't know what Aaron Judge's elbow situation is looking like. He is going to work to avoid surgery. We obviously hope that's the case. But if you're talking about a strain, we don't know how lingering that's going to be. Is it going to affect him in the first portion of 2026? I don't know. What we do know is this. Aaron Judge is not a right fielder for the foreseeable future. We could be talking first base in 2027, 2028. I don't know for sure, but he has to be preserved on the offensive end as best he can. So when Giancarlo Stanton eventually comes off the books after 2028, I think it is, or 2027, Judge is going to hopefully start getting more DH reps, so he is not as asked to do as much physically on, throughout the course of a 162 game season as he approaches 40 years old. So enter Cody Bellinger, who's 3 years younger and is defensively versatile. That's your right fielder. That's your first baseman when you need it. That's your center fielder, left fielder if someone else goes down with an injury. So call it, I don't know, call it an unnecessary defense of somebody. If you're not a Cody Bellinger fan, I don't know why you wouldn't be based on what you saw this year, unless you're holding him to a higher standard in the postseason, which I guess I can get. But the fact that he is going to be significantly cheaper than the next best option is a major plus. The fact that he likes it here, I think, is a major plus. And he delivered here. It's not like he came in and was a complete dud. He played incredibly well, and then the playoffs happened, and whatever happened. He performed well in other games that mattered throughout the year. So it wasn't like he got that magnificent double off Aroldis Chapman in Fenway Park, which to me doesn't earn you your pinstripes. So that puts you well on your way to having a successful Yankees career if that's where you're able to step up as a newcomer. So
he knocked the Mets out of the playoffs almost single-handedly with that double play.
That's true. Yep, forgot about that. That was viewed as the season-saving defensive play as well on the Yankees end because they were still suffering at that point. But yeah, I mean, when you analyze all the factors in terms of price, in terms of age, in terms of versatility, in terms of lefty bat, in terms of approach, in terms of overall experience, I think the answer is Cody Bellinger, and it's kind of not even close. And then if you want, again, you're going to need a veteran outfielder with one of the two, I think. And I think Cody Bellinger is the better example because he was in LA for as long as he has and has been as successful as he has for however many years it's been. He's the better option than Trent Grisham to help Jason Dominguez and to help Spencer Jones and whoever else is filling in the outfield, and even Ben Rice if he's helping him out at first base. So there's a lot of other factors that go into it outside of just, sign the best bat. It's like, yes, there's still other supplementary moves that the Yankees would be able to make with flexibility if they sign Bellinger for cheaper. Again, don't know what that price tag is going to be, but it's definitely going to be half of Kyle Tucker's. So that's where I'm at.
And people comparing this, like Bellinger versus Tucker, to the Yankees signing Anthony Rizzo instead of signing Freddie Freeman, like, it's a noble thought, but also I'm just going to call BS on that. I'm throwing the challenge flag. Like, Freddie Freeman cost $150 million. That is chump change for the New York Yankees. And they didn't want to touch that. They wanted to go with the familiarity in Rizzo for, like, I guess 35% of the price. Still relatively, they're not, it wasn't like long-term deal versus internal option. Yeah, it was long-term deal for, legitimate top of his game bat versus bounce back contract, 20 million annual pillow for a guy who'd been a solid veteran fit, but objectively had passed the bulk of his prime. In this situation, we're talking about paying the Freeman contract or less versus paying a market resetting price for a guy who you don't have that much comfortable data on. I like Freeman over Rizzo. You were trying to keep continuity in the clubhouse and hopefully keep money to reinvest in other areas. And did they? No, I don't think that they really did. But that at the time you were looking at it going, yeah, you're going to wish you had Freddie Freeman. And then the postseason happens in 2024 and you go, yeah, that would have that would have been great to have. This, we're talking about a gap of $250+ million. And we're also talking about a 29-year-old who just had an elite level season with the New York Yankees in the pressure-packed clubhouse. We're not talking about rewarding someone who had 2 solid months at the end of 2021. I don't think those are comparable at all, and it's not just the price points. But if you believe in Kyle Tucker to that extent, and you believe in the vote for Kyle Tucker is the vote for just like the game being played on paper, in my opinion, that like, if you pay this high price, you're going to look up at the end of the year and have those counting stats and have 5.2 WAR. By the way, Cody Bellinger got over 5 WAR last year.
Pretty cool.
So we're not talking about Tucker putting up 6 and Bellinger putting up 2.2 and us arguing for like, well, I like the fit. Like Bellinger and Tucker had roughly equivalent seasons last year. If you think Bellinger's going to age like milk, if you think Tucker's an ascendant player who's going to pepper the porch with, laser home runs, you can add 8, 10 to his ledger, then fine. But the price you're paying is astronomical compared to the price of Bellinger. And we know how the Yankees operate, and there are plenty more needs. And that doesn't even include potentially giving Trent Grisham the qualifying offer and seeing whether he takes it. I think he will. I wouldn't give him the qualifying offer. I think it gums up your outfield a little bit, especially if, what's the worst case scenario? You got to put him on the bench and give Jason and Spencer Jones the reps. Then you're paying $22 million for a bench player, and the Yankees don't want to and won't do that. I wonder if they risk it, but whether they do or not, there's a lot that needs to happen here, and there's not too much money to spread around. There's also not that much elite talent on the free agent market. I tried to put this together like 10 times. They need bullpen arms. Buy me 2. Buy me 3. That includes trade. Trade for 2. Buy 1. Get 4. New names in here. I laughed out loud seeing bullpen projections for next year. And it was like, obviously Weaver and Devin Williams most likely gone. You got Doval. You got an option on Tim Hill. You keep Bednar for 2026. Fernando Cruz. And I was like, I thought that was it. That was the whole core. And then I saw Jake Bird in there and I was like, well, of course, yeah, okay. The guy they traded actual prospects for at the trade deadline will also be a part of the bullpen mix, right? I forgot about him, but he was in AAA for the entire second half. So yeah, Jake Bird will be there too, but fresh blood. You cannot. Ian Hamilton is at AAA. Scott Efros at AAA. Those are non-tender guys. Mark Leiter Jr. didn't make the playoff roster. That's a non-tender guy. You don't only need 3 or 4 bodies. Jonathan Loaizaga, please don't make me laugh. You need 3 or 4 trusted arms. Look at the other bullpens in the postseason and the people they're running out there. If there were internal options, I would like to see them. Harrison Cohen, gimme, whatever. Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, you want to try him? Fine. If you want to show me internal options, show them to me. But until you can prove that you have those people, 2, 3, 4 fresh arms. And by the end of the postseason, I need to see 7, 8 guys I can use instead of 3. And this whole playoffs, luckily there was no absolute bullpen meltdown, but the Yankees short postseason was defined by people questioning things like bringing Luke Weaver into a 2-1 game in Toronto and saying, oh my God, Aaron Boone is an idiot, followed by us just having to play nice guy and push back and be like, the bullpen is so bad. Man, like there were 3 guys you'd want to see max,
and you can't use them in the 6th inning.
There are only so many innings in a baseball game, so it sort of removes some of the debate to embrace because, the Yankees were in a bad spot. No matter who they brought in there, it probably wasn't going to work, and then when it didn't, you could get mad about it. But what's Weaver doing in that game? If they're winning 2-1, he's not in that game, and they're losing 2-1, and they've got nobody. So Weaver's job is to not record 0 outs, and he didn't do it. Not much more to say about that. You need bullpen arms. That money's got to go there, whether the payroll goes down to 275, 300 million or stays where it is. You're clearing out Stroman's money. You're getting rid of some of these. Aaron Hicks is done, I think.
Aaron Hicks has 1 million left. So here's actually a few interesting things for the payroll that we need to pay attention to for this year. So first of all is, don't you forget, they backloaded Max Fried's contract. He made $14.5 million against the payroll this year. He's making $14.5 million against the payroll next year. And then the remainder of his contract, that number goes up to $31.5 million. So this is the last year before they are looking at a $24 million pay hike, $25 million, $23 million pay hike on Max Fried against the luxury tax. Then you have a couple of other interesting things. DJ LeMahieu, they're on the hook for the $15 million there, so you can actually just call that a wash between Fried's salary and what they owe LeMahieu. Aaron Hicks buyout, $1 million. That's going to the luxury tax. There is the Yankees did not get the full $5 million from the Cubs in the Bellinger trade for last year. They got half for this year and half for next year. So they have minus $2.5 million going against the 2026 payroll. And the Marlins start kicking in those beautiful payments for Giancarlo Stanton. $10 million coming in from Miami for 2026. So if you're looking at it from purely just an excess pay cost, the Yankees are only math. 16 minus 12.5. 3.5? 3.5. $3.5 million in excess payments, which is good. And then you talk about Max Fried's low salary. You know, if you want to add that in there and do the gymnastics, pay him $3.5 million more. So you have Max Fried for $18 million next year, and you can call everything else a wash. It's pretty much a good deal, I think. So now that begs the question, what is the number at? The number base is at $173 million. The number, assuming they exercise all their options, this includes Bellinger's $25 million player option, which is obviously not getting exercised because he denied it. $5 million team option for Jonathan Loaisiga. That ain't happening. $3 million.
Please don't.
$3 million option for Tim Hill. I would say that's probably happening, right?
Yep.
So that number is $266 million, assuming they pick up every single option and assuming all of the arbitration costs land in the projected zone. So what does that do? That gives them 30 plus million of spending because if you want to factor in, actually it gives them 40 million. So here's some more math we got to do. Take out the 5 million for Loaisiga. That ain't happening. That brings them down to 260 million. Keep that number static because we, for our exercise purposes, are going to say Cody Bellinger, if he re-signs with the Yankees, is making $25 million or more next year. So you could safely say whether they re-sign, if they re-sign Bellinger, we're still in this 260 million range. And don't forget, there are some names you could non-tender. Mark Leiter Jr., $3+ million. I don't think you're bringing that back. I mean, look, I wouldn't bring it back. Who knows what the Yankees are going to do? You also have Scott Efros. I know it's only going to be $1 million, but like, why? Just go spend the $1 million elsewhere. This is a little bit more of a difficult conversation, and I don't really think it's applicable, but it's worth mentioning. Clark Schmidt's going to be up for like almost a $4.5 million salary for next year. He's not going to pitch at all. I just don't know if that's. He only has 2 years of control left. Like, are the Yankees really going to pay him almost $5 million this year, and then roll the dice on another $5-6 million year for 2027 while he's essentially rehabbing? Like, I don't.
They're not going to extend him.
It's just something worth monitoring. And then you have who was the other arb person? I think that's it, actually. So that was the only other questionable arb. Oh, and then you have Ian Hamilton. Like, it's $750,000, but like, again, why keep it? Why not just spend the money elsewhere or get somebody else that makes sense? The other one that they're definitely keeping, but it is a little bit complicated, Camilo Doval's projected to make $6.6 million. It's a lot of money for somebody who we are not sure is good or not. But nonetheless, you look at the free agents, and I don't know if any of these guys are suitable for what the Yankees need. The Yankees need high leverage bullpen help. And even these top names are not suitable. Raisel Iglesias, no. Ryan Helsley, not after what I saw him do in Queens. Kenley Jansen is going to be 39 years old. Tyler Rogers, Kirby Yates, David Robertson, like Emilio Pagan. The Reds use him. The Reds pitched him into the ground this year.
I can't stand watching him too. No.
So yeah, I mean, Steven Matz, I know he was just with the Red Sox and he was solid, but like, I'm just not sure that's a solidified option for you to claim that you've upgraded your bullpen. Sir Anthony Dominguez is a free agent.
I'd probably pay him. I'd probably pay Matz.
Sir Anthony Dominguez. All these, I mean, there's no Michael Kopech, but do you want to deal with all those injuries?
No
Taylor
chance.
Rogers, I know it's an interesting piece to have. Probably won't be expensive. Is that an upgrade though? I'm not sure. List goes on, but again, it's not anything that is going to knock your socks off. So I think we're looking at another offseason where the Yankees are trading for more relievers and trying to figure that out. But again, look at the bottom line. They have about $45 million in spending before the Cohen tax, which is the threshold that they have been dying to avoid. ever since that tax came into existence. What do you do with that money? I don't know. It puts them at least in. They just have to be smart with the acquisitions again. But like you look at the rest of the free agents. Last thing I'll say here: you cannot sign Kyle Schwarber because you simply cannot have another DH unless you want to figure out a way to move off of somebody else. So that's not happening. We just talked a lot about Tucker, so I think we've made our point there. In terms of other options like Alex Bregman, you're not signing him because you just invested $32 million in Ryan McMahon. So like that's not happening. Max Muncy, even if the Dodgers were to reject his team option, that's a third base DH type. You're not signing that because you don't have the flexibility. Bo Bichette is the only guy that I would say, okay, you're gonna move off of Volpe, then you have my attention if you're gonna consider Bo Bichette. And then everywhere else, like Pete Alonso is the only other one. Like, what do you do in that scenario? You trade Austin Wells, make Ben Rice the full-time catcher / part-time first baseman, get another backup catcher in there, or elevate JC Escobar to that role more permanently. But then you know, again, that's all you're working with here, unless you can get super creative and make some trades, or I don't know what else might happen between now and the winter meetings. But yeah, I mean, Luis Arraez at first base, is that something you'd be interested in? I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if that's significant enough to move the needle. It changes the Yankees player profile a bit, but I don't know. They're going to need these younger players to step up, and they're going to need the supplementary pieces that Cashman identifies to really nail it.
The Bichette defense is really scary to, as is the injury history, as is the on-off switch. You never know when it's coming or going. Like, you have to move off Anthony Volpe, or you have to insure yourself against Anthony Volpe. But is a big money Bo Bichette deal the way that they do that? It's pretty hard to justify, even dragging him away from a division rival, which is very funny. It would be an odd pivot, especially given how much the Yankees prioritize defense. And to do it with Bichette now, after not doing it with Corey Seager a couple of years ago, it just makes me want to roll my eyes out of the back of my head. But I hear you. That's why this is such a tough plan to come up with. They need to spend this money. They need upgrades at multiple positions. Catcher, first base, shortstop, bullpen. Get me a workhorse innings-eating starter who's not Carlos Carrasco. I don't think the rotation is a need, but if you're telling me that they can't use somebody in addition to the high ceiling group of guys they have, knowing how hard it is to keep a rotation healthy all year, then you're lying. Like, if Merrill Kelly could be plopped onto the Yankees roster for free, you'd be thrilled. The problem is the cost, and is that where they want to allocate their funds given all the other assets they need? Peter, moving Ben Rice to catcher permanently, trading Wells, and bringing in a near full-time first baseman is the best way, other than the outfield market, to shop around and get an impact bat. Whether that's Alonso, whether that's Josh Naylor, Kyle Schwarber's not playing first. But the reality is Naylor is not a platoon partner for Ben Rice. Unless you're moving Wells out from behind the plate and getting him out of here, if you're probably looking for a veteran righty like Paul Goldschmidt, if not Paul Goldschmidt, to go caddy Ben Rice at first again as Austin Wells catches, or you're bringing in a guy like JT Realmuto on a short-term deal to go catch. He is not an offensive non-threat at this point, but he's hardly what he used to be. You're grabbing someone who, due to the wear and tear and rigors of being a catcher, might be last year's Paul Goldschmidt to be your starter, and you're trading Austin Wells for that. I don't see the value in that either. So it's really a tough offseason plan to put together. There is no route where you just say slam dunk, this works. Maybe you trade for Steven Kwan. Maybe he's your left fielder moving forward. Jason Dominguez plays center. Bellinger walks. You're paying way less, and you're getting that table setter, and you're giving the prospects a chance. Trent Grisham walks too. Who's on your bench? I'm not 100% sure. There is certainly no perfect solution. I have yet to read anyone's offseason plan that I'm hooting and hollering at like a seal, slapping my hands and celebrating. And Chris Kirschner went as far in The Athletic as to say, Luis Gil to the bullpen, Tarek Skubal, Joe Ryan trade. And hopping in front of the Red Sox on a Joe Ryan trade, if it's available to you and if they like your prospect capital, if it's not quite as expensive as you thought, definitely try to stop the Red Sox from doing that. But I wouldn't count as Tarek Skubal as part of your offseason plan. I wouldn't say getting a number 2 should be their number 1 priority. It would be nice. It's a nice to have, but there's so much more here. And you still end up with, well, I guess Austin Wells catches. Well, I guess it's a Caballero Volpe open competition at shortstop. There's no slam dunk shortstop option, which is the saddest part of whatever this offseason plan ends up being.
Yeah, it's I don't know why I don't disagree with anything that was predicted in The Athletic either, but like, here's where my brain goes. I don't know why you're going to empty the farm system for Skubal. Again, 1 year of Skubal. And what does Joe Ryan have? 2 years left? When you can sign, and I'm not saying these options are better. I'm just saying this merely costs money, and then you can either trade for the real dearth of talent this year is the position player pool. So if you want to make a trade, this is not the year to do it for a starting pitcher. Dylan Cease is available. Framber Valdez is available. Ranger Suarez is available. Freddie Peralta is available. And if you want to talk veteran options that can like help the back end of your rotation, you got Jack Flaherty, you have Nick Martinez, you have Merrill Kelly, you have Zach Littell, and Zach Gallen's available. Again, these aren't the best options, and there's also a conversation to be had that some of these guys are a little bit undervalued because of the underwhelming 2024 or 2025 that they had, however you want to look at it, because baseball's a what have you done for me lately sport. But you just go through, Lucas Giolito is probably opting out of his contract and becoming a free agent. Jose Quintana is probably opting out of his contract. Again, I would love Jose Quintana as a fifth starter. I would love Lucas Giolito as a fourth starter. That improves the Yankees vastly. And even if they want to sign two of those guys, like you said, to ensure that they have a starting rotation that can get them to the finish line, then that's the move. And that's where the money should be spent, in my opinion. And if you want to make other transactions for position players, whether it's trading for Steven Kwan or whether it's getting a different shortstop, like that's where you open up the prospect pool and start talking to people about that. Pitching is also a tough thing to trade for because it's the most risky thing to trade for. A pitcher can go down tomorrow and be done for a year and a half. So then you're surrendering assets for the pitcher who you're eventually going to have to pay anyway. And I know that logic is the same for position players, but for pitchers, the price is even more. It's theoretically the worst investment to make. You know, like you have to make the investment. It's your hands are tied. You need starting pitching. You need to have those top end guys in order to take you deep into the postseason. But if it's the option of merely paying them or trading prospects and then paying them, you have to go with the former. Then again, the other argument I see with trading for one is because the Yankees have so much money tied up in the rotation. Garrett Cole is making $36 million. Fried will be making $31.5 million after next year. Rodon is making $28 million. It's a lot of money to pay three starters. That's the $90 million. So I can understand why the Yankees wouldn't want to be in the top end of this pool. But again, like I said, you want to sign Merrill Kelly and Jose Quintana? I think that's an incredible offseason. And then you can, challenge Will Warren for that last spot. You could challenge Luis Gil for that last spot. I think it's crazy we're talking about Luis Gil to the bullpen already. First of all, his problem is with walks. I do not want a guy who's issuing 4.5 walks per 9 innings in the bullpen. That's for starters. And two, the guy won Rookie of the Year and then came off a major injury where he missed 3.5 months. We're already moving him to the bullpen because he had a mediocre start against the Blue Jays in the playoffs in game 1 of a DS series that he put the team in a position to win. Was he lights out? No, but he didn't ruin the game by any means. He labored through 4 and change and gave up a run or gave up 2 runs, and that was that. So, I don't know why that's not suitable for a fifth starter. He's a good young pitcher. But yeah, in terms of looking at options to make your roster as strong as it can be, I'm paying money for back-end starters this offseason, and then I'm seeing what is on the trade market and who's available because, Pete Alonso already came out and said he wants 8 years or 7 years. The Yankees can't do that. And again, there's all this other flexibility issue. There's all these other flexibility issues that they have with their roster that they're not going to be able to accommodate a number of these guys. Kike Hernandez would get my other vote to sign him, but he's just never leaving the Dodgers. It's just a tough pull. And again, this is why we stressed them emptying the tank for 2024. And they didn't do it. And now we're looking at every offseason now is, well, what's next? Whether it's somebody coming off the books, whether it's a salary increasing, whether it's someone injured, whether it's losing depth, whether it's a diminishing prospect pool, like there's a snowballing amount of questions every year. And it will go down in history that it was one of the biggest errors of the modern era that the Yankees did not empty the tank for 2024. I don't know why I'm talking about this now, but I am. You're looking at the free agent list on MLB.com. It's like, what are we doing? The Yankees front office didn't look ahead for the next 2 years of free agency. Kyle Tucker's going to be there, but yeah, the projections. He's going to make fucking $350 million. You're not going to want to pay it. So are you considering that an actual guy that's going to be available to you, or are you just considering that a guy that's going to be in free agency? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're talking about how many holes there are to fill. There's never been an offseason when they filled every hole. This is why our aggression stands. This is why we're bothered, because this is not the first offseason, nor will it be the last, where the Yankees have like 7 things to address, because sometimes they wait till midseason to address them. Sometimes they never address them at all. Sometimes they emphatically address one of them and not the rest. So I guess this isn't more complex than normal off seasons. It's just a worse pool of available applicants for the jobs. I do trust that they'll get some, like, for no one saw Fernando Cruz coming last year. There will be some creative solutions that we don't see coming. And then the question is, do those solutions work at all? Or are they enough? And do they equate to what they'd get from signing Kyle Tucker? I personally don't believe Kyle Tucker is the type of pie in the sky solution that should override all of the team's remaining holes. But some of you do. And I don't think a Tarek Skubal trade that would be, if he showed up on the roster, I'd be pumping my fist like the rest of you. But it's hard to really imagine that there's something out there that could make you forget about them addressing the outfield and be big enough to fill their additional needs and trickle down to the rest of the roster. But hey, that's just us. Maybe Brian Cashman has something up his sleeve. We will see. I want to gloat about the Toronto Blue Jays and also talk about a missed opportunity before the end of the show, just because I want to feel good for a little bit after 48 minutes and counting of feeling kind of bummed about the predicament the Yankees find themselves in. The only real argument for giving Juan Soto the money that he required is that there's no other Juan Soto on the market. It was true last year. It's true now. Hey, but guess what? If you beat the Yankees and you make your whole identity, we beat the Yankees, you got to show up in the next round. You just have to. You have to show up and finish the job. And if that finishing of the job is losing to the Dodgers in the World Series, I think you can go ahead and say, we got by a machine. There's a machine out there. The world let him get Blake Snell on top of everything. After Ohtani took the pay cut, after Yamamoto clearly followed Ohtani, after Roki Sasaki followed both of them, after they loaded their bullpen and it didn't work, but at the end of the day, they were able to move Roki Sasaki out there. If the Dodgers run you over in the World Series, I'll give you a welcome to the club. I'll sit you down and put my hand on your shoulder and say, it's really hard to do that. We failed to do that. You failed to do that. I think people are going to fail to do that again next year. We're looking at a dynasty. You got to win the American League if you come as hard as you did after the New York Yankees. That's where I'm at with the Blue Jays. You're allowed to celebrate however you feel, however you see fit, right? John Schneider can yell, start spreading the news, bitches.
He can do that. He can, and it's fine.
Vlad Jr. can do the Yankees lose with Big Papi. They can even put the Yankees lose in their ALCS Game 1 hype montage, which they did. You can even have Blue Jays fans wearing custom Yankees lose Blue Jays jerseys to the ALCS, which we had. We saw those. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. I'm not getting on this podcast to say it's classless, you're cursed, you should be ashamed. It is kind of classless, but you can celebrate classlessly if you want to. Everyone else has turned the Yankees into a meme. Everyone else dances when they beat the Yankees. But the 2018 Red Sox and the Boombox and New York, they won 108 games in the regular season. They'd had the chip on their shoulder for 86 years of rivalry, and they had completely flipped the script on the Yankees from 2004 to 2018. So what they did was run over the Yankees like a squashed bug, and then continued the train rolling through the American League postseason and the World Series because they were the best team in baseball. What the Toronto Blue Jays had to do to beat we're just trying to beat the Yankees allegations was keep the train rolling, roll over the Mariners, definitely take 1 of 2 at home before heading to Seattle. Probably want to take both. especially with Trey Savage and Kevin Gausman on the mound. And what you can't do is play your Yankees-related celebration clip before game one of the next series. The Yankee fans have stopped thinking about this. We have moved on. We're excited to have beaten the Red Sox in the postseason. We're also still sad our postseason run ended. You were really excited to beat the Yankees in the postseason. Fueling yourselves with it privately heading into game one, fine. Making it part of your public identity heading into game one, you really have to back that up with play on the field. You can't no-show in that situation. You can, and maybe you will get away with it because you're not the Yankees. If the Yankees had done that, oh boy, like maybe you'll get away with it. Maybe people will forget. But in my opinion, you can celebrate however you want to celebrate. Classy, not classy, moving the goalposts on what's classy and what's not. Who cares? You have to back it up on the field. Otherwise, you open the door back up to us to not going to invalidate the whole run. We came up shorter than you did, right? We don't have the ability to sit here and say, I'm glad I'm me and not you. Yeah, Red Sox fans basically saying again, once you've lost, we're not here on the podcast saying Yankees weren't very good. You don't even get credit for beating us. Like, we're actually a poorly constructed team. No, you beat us fair and square. You moved along, exemplary offensive performances all series. The way the Mariners hit around Trey Savage yesterday, in fact, makes the Yankees look even worse. And we're not too big to admit that, hey, it was pretty embarrassing watching another team. The hard contact he gives up, the stats were out there. Mike Petriello tweeted one of the worst pitchers in baseball after his call up and allowing hard contact. We didn't get it. The Mariners did. Makes us look worse. We're still embarrassed. We still have an whole offseason to map out. We have no idea how it's going to go. We don't know who we want or who's available. But if you're going to be the Blue Jays, you're going to be that obsessed with the New York Yankees, and the fan base is still not let it go a week later, and the fan base is directing that, imbuing hero status upon their players for knocking the Yankees out of the postseason. You got to deliver in the next round. And no offense in the opener against the Mariners 4-starter in a game with a significant rest advantage, and blown out of the gym in game two. And now we go to Seattle, a team in a city without much postseason history. And this is not over. And the Blue Jays can regroup. And the Blue Jays have been a special combination of power and contact all year. Blue Jays fans, though, it feels pretty bleak right now, unless you consider beating the Yankees to be your World Series, in which case it feels awesome because you already did that and then that's over and you didn't have anything else to work towards.
Yeah, it's upsetting for a number of reasons. Number one, it's just because like teams making this their identity. Everybody levels up.
Yeah, and you know how you rebut it. You rebut it if you're the Yankees, you actually win.
Exactly.
Some of these.
Well, that's the upsetting part is because everybody levels up to play the Yankees, and the Blue Jays did that. Savage dominated and then came out and gave up 3 runs before recording it out in the next series. Vladdy does not have a hit. The bullpen has let them down massively in the first 2 games of this series, and their bullpen was essentially the reason they won the DS with how they held up in that final game and how they supported Kevin Gausman in game 1. So you look at that and it's upsetting from the standpoint where it's like the Yankees literally let a team who all they wanted to do was beat the Yankees absolutely beat the shit out of them. Again, there's no excuses here. If anybody here is looking for excuse, we don't have any excuses. The excuse was that the Yankees were bad, and we're depressed about it because then the team that they beat, the series is not over, but very hard to come back from using your 2 best pitchers at home and losing both of those games and then going back to Seattle when you had an opportunity to back Seattle into a corner. Remember, Seattle's game 5 against the Tigers went 15 innings. It was almost 2:00 in the morning Eastern time when that game ended. And then they had 1 day off and were going to Toronto. So it was all coming up Blue Jays. The Blue Jays had a day and a half of extra, 2 days almost extra rest, a day and a half extra rest. They were able to line up the rotation. They got Scherzer and Bassett back on the CS roster. So it was all there. But yeah, like again, the continued shit talking is just like, give it a rest, man. I don't want to be a Red Sox fan because all the Red Sox fans did after they got eliminated by us was track our every move in the postseason. And I'm not doing that, but I am watching as an objective viewer and saying, oh, okay, that's interesting. Clipping Dalton Varsho diving catch highlights when the catch probability is 95%. looking at John Schneider make dumbass managerial moves again. He intentionally walked Cal Raleigh yesterday and then brought in a reliever. Instead of bringing in the reliever for the 3-batter minimum, intentionally walking Raleigh and then going on to the next. So it's like, now you guys, your brain's just going to implode on itself and you're going to forget how to play baseball. You're going to lose all your edge. And you're still, again, going to celebrate the DS win over the Yankees as if that was the final step. Let's also not forget 2 seasons ago, the Blue Jays were, I think, the AL favorite to win the World Series. And they either didn't make the playoffs or they lost in the wild card round. So the Toronto coming up short is also a narrative in this modern era with all these players that they've had and this core that they've had. And it just sucks that it'll never be viewed that way. And it's in part because Toronto's irrelevant and they're not good. And there's no meat on the bone to clown Toronto, right? Like, they have choked forever. Toronto's city identity is essentially not winning. Maple Leafs fans will tell you all about that. So it's like, it's not like it's the Yankees where there's a rich history and they had won so much at certain periods of time that people grew to hate them. Nobody hates Toronto. They're just a footnote in everything that goes down. So like, they can do all this nonsensical trolling of the Yankees on, and they still have an audience for it. And that's just where society is sad, because it doesn't matter what the Blue Jays are doing. In reality, Yankees fans are going to clock this and they're going to say, oh, okay, so you're a loser. But the rest of the baseball community is going to be like, oh man, that's hilarious. They trolled the Yankees in their ALCS video and these fans are wearing these hilarious jerseys around Rogers Center. And it's like, did you see the result of the first 2 games of the series? No, they don't. I mean, they did, but they don't care. It's the Yankees are the butt end of the joke, and the Yankees are the butt end of the joke until they prove otherwise. And we're in a 16-year drought of it. And it's just the way it's going to be until this team decides to punch back. And it's really upsetting that it's the lowest hanging fruit in sports, right? Like, I hate the Cowboys. I'm a Giants fan. But like, at this point, I'm just like, give it a rest, dude. Like, everybody laughing at the Cowboys every year when they either get eliminated from the playoffs if they don't make it. I'm like, how is this so funny?
Mm-hmm.
This team has not been relevant since the mid-90s. You think that this is like the funniest thing in the world that they didn't win the Super Bowl?
A sad old man does a press conference at the end of the year, and they're like, well, I would have loved to win a Super Bowl for me and my sons, but I guess my team is 5-12 again. Everyone's like, haha, you idiot.
Yeah.
And also, they don't even come close. Like, they don't lose the Super Bowl on miraculous catches. They're just not good.
Which objectively would be funny if the Yankees, lost Game 7 on the World Series on an error.
Or perhaps Game 5 of the World Series, they blow a 5-0 lead on errors. Like, that might be funny. That's
like halfway to funny, in my opinion. But if the Cowboys are in the NFC Championship game and fumble the kickoff, and then the other team kicks the game-winning field goal with a minute left, that's funny. But they're not even close. The Yankees, not even close. They have not been close outside of last year. And again, we wouldn't call that close because they faced the one level of competition that was equal or greater and they got demolished. So that's just the sports world now, man. It's memes, it's low-hanging fruit, it's who's the biggest target, who's the biggest brand in the sport. We are going to tear you down, we are going to laugh at you, and it's just sad. And Red Sox fans, it's a disgrace what that certain group of fans have done this entire postseason. It's going to be disgraceful when the Blue Jays are eliminated from these playoffs, and their shit talking this offseason is, oh, well, how many more games did you play in the postseason than us this year? I saw Red Sox fans quote tweeting Yankees fans or quote tweeting Red Sox fans for shit talking the Yankees for getting eliminated. And then they're like, oh, when's your next game? And the Red Sox are like, same time as yours, dude. And it's like, okay, man, hilarious. You got me. Oh my God, I'm out of the playoff. What am I going to do? I'm out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I've never experienced this before. How am I supposed to come back from this? And it's like, you got eliminated. I'm not sitting here waiting for the Blue Jays to get eliminated to troll them like Red Sox fans were. But I will say, like you were saying, you've made this, you made your entire identity beating the Yankees. And then you showed up to the next biggest series against a team that's in theory inferior.
And we're set up for the taking. Like Bryce Miller, your aces are rested and ready. They played a 15-inning slog fest to get here and couldn't hit, and were swinging for the fences with first and second, nobody out every inning. They played a horrible offensive game. You're watching that, licking your lips, thinking about how every starter is being used in this game. They're so tired. They're showing their deficiencies. They're breaking down at one of the most important moments in franchise history. Every inning, they just need to move these runners over a little bit. And every inning, they can't do it. You're saying as if we already weren't confident and looking ahead to the World Series. Now we really can. And you show up at home in games 1 and 2 and lay a Yankees-esque egg.
They essentially did what the Yankees did. So they took our identity and applied it to the CS. Again, the series not over, and the Mariners have a healthy history of giving it back and falling apart, but they very much feel like the team of destiny right now, especially after what the Blue Jays allowed to happen in these first 2 games of the series. And last thing I will say is I thought it was hilarious that Fox just did 30 seconds of depressed Blue Jays fans on the broadcast. I'm like, what? That's usually something they'd reserve for trolling the Yankees or something, but I guess Fox is Fox and Toronto is Canada, so you have the nationalist angle to it. I see what you're doing, Fox. I know what you're up to, but pretty good, pretty savage. And yeah, Blue Jays fans will be sitting here, warm place on the couch I've been farting on for about 6 days now, and you can come right there, face first into it.
Yeah, we farted on the couch and put your face in it. Is that good to do? Also noteworthy, we talked to Josh Naylor, not a fit. Jorge Polanco, probably not a fit either. But that was, I remember, I have the receipts with some of y'all
second base.
When the Yankees were pursuing Jorge Polanco to maybe fill that void and shuffle Jazz back over to third or what have you, that was part of the post-Gleyber Torres walks plan. He ends up signing like a $7.5 million deal with Seattle. And it was down to, there was a while we thought it was down to the Yankees in Houston. And we were saying on this show, like, if he goes to Houston, he'll bounce back. If he goes to the Yankees, he won't. We've already seen this. We know how this story plays out. Not interested. And then Seattle, after a bad year in Seattle, where he doesn't play well and he gets injured and has knee scope, he comes back and he's a revelation. So good for Seattle that they were able to make this work in the second go around. But another example of an offseason lesson learned. Like, this is a situation where Yankee fans last year were saying, if Jorge Polanco's the plan B, like, I'm losing my mind. He hit like 240 last year. He lost all his power. What are we doing? Think about that and think about the fact that he's the best clutch hitter left in the MLB playoffs and is almost single-handedly leading Seattle through this bracket and did it all year and was borderline the team MVP, of course, behind the actual MVP. But I'm saying, when you needed a guy with a knack for clutch moments, you called on Jorge Polanco. Winning teams have players like that, and winning teams don't pay that much for players like that. So when we're talking about a Kyle Tucker-centric offseason, heliocentric, everything revolves around him. And when we're talking about not having money left over to upgrade bench spots or flesh out whatever the Yankees are putting on the field any given day, and who's platooning and who's starting 3 games a week out of the 7. Think about that when we're talking about flawed players with some special skills, and maybe don't write off someone the Yankees are pursuing right away just because it's right to be anxious about the injury history or not understand the full scope or not like the full picture, but there might be something there. And every so often a team turns that into Jorge Polanco, and it could have been us, and it wasn't, and it won't be.
Nope, it won't be. And congrats to the Mariners. They've been playing some inspiring baseball. I've watched, I think, almost every game that they have played this postseason. And I hope, the only thing that I don't like is that how many of these fans can cry? Like, I understand it's been a while. There are so many other downtrodden franchises that are worse than the Mariners that have gotten just as far than the Mariners in recent years. Like, every fan is crying because of a win at home in the CS. I get it. It's emotional, but like literally every fan, that's all the cameras were cutting to. It's like, all right, I guess, but like, I don't know. Crying's weird to me. It's weird to do excessively.
Yeah, I am trying really hard to not troll the crying Mariners fans, but
not trolling. I'm just asking.
I'm just saying it's really impressive that they keep finding Mariners fans to cry on Leo Rivas's game-tying single in Game 5 of the DS. Like, that was a pretty big hit in the 7th inning.
Game 2, they were crying.
It's a lot
before
of
the
crying.
game even ended. They were crying before the first win in the CS, the first playoff win since what, 2002?
In the DS, yeah, coming back and winning the Skubal game. There were people crying late in that game.
Yeah, they were crying it before the result was even finished. I'm like, can you guys even wait? What is happening?
And where are the cameras picking up on these? Are these crying people bribing?
You've got a crier.
Bribing the Fox cameras to get I know that the guy who was the crier in the DS was from a prominent Seattle political family and a guy who like owns a fast casual restaurant. Like, did he slip the Fox camera people a couple of dollars, $2-3? How much money does it take for a crying bribe? $6, $7? Like, that one felt a little orchestrated. And then the second guy, the Leo Rivas guy, I had a friend text me like, is that his dad? Like, why would you love Leo Rivas that much? More emotion in baseball. Fans, I've cried. I cried at like Mel Stottlemyre coming back and getting his number retired. I've cried about the Yankees for sure. I've cried about what they've meant to me, the standard they've failed to uphold for 20 years. But it does seem like every time there's a big Mariners hit, from huge to moderately large, from just kind of normal size, there's a crying person in the stands. And who are you? And let us know who you are. Reach out and tell us who you are, how they found you, and whether they want more. Because I'm willing to fly to Seattle. I will wear Seattle Mariners gear if there's a kickback in it for me. We will see you all back here on Thursday afternoon, I believe, to talk
Maybe
more
Friday,
about the New Year.
who knows?
Perhaps Friday. We got to spread it out. It's the off season. We will see you again, though. And the best way to know when we're going live is turning those notifications on. Get that little bell going. You'll find out when we are going to be talking ball, off season, postseason, New York Yankees baseball, not active baseball, no stats being accrued by the Yankees, which is a shame because Cal Raleigh homered the other day in the CS, and they said that's his 62nd of the year. John Boy Media tweet. I mean, it is and it isn't, though, right? Like, it is and it isn't. Aaron Judge hit some in the 2022 playoffs. I don't remember anybody adding to his total back then. Didn't hit many, but he hit a couple. We'll see you, though, when we see you. Please turn on your notifications. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carranante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. More if you need to find me. Down to S Talk. It'll be fun. We're at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do not forget it. We'll give you alerts for when we're going live. For example, today. We went live today. We don't usually go live today, but we did. And of course, head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the content is. We appreciate you guys reading. It's a busy off season. There's still a lot going on. There's a lot of dates you guys need to keep up with in terms of deadlines and fan events and all that. We're gonna hook you all up when the time comes. But for now, some off-season coverage, some tertiary coverage of the postseason. It's good to stay in the know. So we'll see you guys over on yanksgoyard.com, and we'll see you next time when we go live. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Please enjoy the rest of your week. Try. Maybe the Mariners will help. Might be nice. Until then, until we see you next time, take care.